Often silent about the discrimination they face, Asian Americans have come together to voice their anger over racial violence that has become too common.
I feel inspired, I feel united, I feel we have a voice.
Since the start of the pandemic over a year ago, physical and verbal attacks against people of Asian descent have exploded, an increase of 114% in Los Angeles alone. Tam Nguyen came to testify on behalf of his Vietnamese community.
This week, 3 Vietnamese nail salons got a very, very nasty letter to all Asian. Hey, you nasty, ugly, smelly, disgusting. No one can stand how ugly and smelly and disgusting you are. Get the F out of the U.S. So, I'm so heartbroken. This is so hurtful.
For many, the anti-China rhetoric of former U.S. President Donald Trump seems to be the link to a recent uptick in racially motivated incidents.
When the President of the United States calls the coronavirus the China virus, Kung flu, that's an insult to all of us as Asians. So they are blaming us for a virus that has nothing to do with us in America.
Main targets are often the elderly, attacked on the street or in shops. Aggressions are often captured by surveillance cameras or mobile phones, like here, when this 91-year-old man was violently thrown to the ground. In a park south of Los Angeles, we meet Tom and her 76-year-old mother, Kien. Not so long ago, she was verbally assaulted while strolling through here.
So one day I walk and some people they walk against me, and they said, "Oh, stay away from her. She's got virus." And I said, "Go home." It's a hurt, it's a sad, but I'm a little bit scared because I'm old lady, and I walk by myself. So what can I do?
But facing a feeling of indifference from the authorities, younger activists have taken matters into their own hands. Every Thursday, around 40 young people meet at this intersection in the Koreatown neighborhood of Los Angeles.
Hurt and they're bleeding or something like that.
To protect the most vulnerable, they have set up a citizen patrol system.
Now, this is pepper spray, and you spray it into people's faces if they're trying to attack you. It's safe, but it gets them away from you. Because of all the anti-Asian violence that's been going on. And we felt that, we wanted to defend ourselves and we want to defend our community.
These volunteers crisscross the neighborhood and divide into groups of 5.
I need someone that is quick on 911 calling. I think at any point when there's violence, we should call.
Once out and about, they distribute brochures and explain to residents how to file a complaint in case an assault takes place.
In light of the recent attacks, trying to make sure everyone's safe. So.
Okay, guys.
Yeah, thank you.
The Koreatown neighborhood has the highest concentration of Asian Americans in Los Angeles. But even that hasn't prevented a recent increase in attacks.
So much of it goes unreported. So we're here to be, number one, a presence of safety, but also to intervene if something is happening. LA has a really bad history of the police not being really there for us.
Volunteers also escort the elderly, who are increasingly afraid to go out on their own. Since the start of the pandemic, authorities have received more than 3,800 complaints of discriminatory acts. Almost half of them have been in California. These discriminations are not new and are rooted in the histories of Asian minorities in the United States.
Well, perhaps some Americans are surprised by the rising tide of anti-Asian violence, but for Asian Americans, I think we've long been aware that this anti-Asian violence has existed for as long as there have been Asian immigrants in this country. Not far away is downtown Los Angeles, and in 1871, 19 Chinese men and boys were murdered by a mob of several hundred men. And that incident, that massacre, was not atypical, that these kinds of incidents were happening throughout the United States, targeting Chinese immigrants, and after them targeting Filipino immigrants, and after them targeting Japanese immigrants who became incarcerated en masse during World War II. So there's been a long record of this anti-Asian violence. It's always been lurking, always been present in the United States, always ready to erupt during moments of economic and racial tension.
Many are still paying respects to the 8 Asian victims of a March shooting in Atlanta, but police later said the crime was not motivated by race.
We are people of color too. We understand discrimination, we understand hate crimes, we understand violence. And I'm just so tired of it. I'm so overwhelmed. But I'm also really proud of everybody that stepped out here, because it's a new generation of Asian Americans that aren't going to be afraid to talk back.
Inspired by Black Lives Matter, this social justice movement is similarly opening its fight against systemic racism to include all minorities.
Why is this happening? We're part of this country. We've been part of the fabric of this country. There's no reason why, because we look different. In several decades from now, we're all going to look a little bit different. And maybe that's scary for some people, but sorry, I'm the mom of biracial kids, and this is what this country's all about, so get used to it.
And it's a common hope here that this awakening will extend to future generations and finally make it possible to eradicate the systemic racism that has plagued the United States for decades.